Oh man, that Pfizer dude. Here, okay, we gotta watch that. You're gonna get my React vid. All right. Here's my React vid. It's only a 10-minute video, but man, it's a lot. So the first thing here is I feel bad for this guy, right? That's the first thing. This guy, gay guy, already a little marginalized, sitting in New York City on a third date with his date. This is terrible, right? Being recorded on a date sucks. Dates are romantic interactions. You don't want to be recorded. It's intimate, it's revealing, it's vulnerable. Being recorded on a date, that's horror. I mean, it's just terrible. What the heck, I've never been recorded on a date as far as I know, but, and I don't care if I was, because I don't do bad things on dates. I'm not a scumbag. Any woman that knows me knows I'm a gentleman, so I don't mind if I ever got recorded on a date. Now, I would mind in the sense that my privacy was violated. So this guy's on a date. He's hoping to see if there's a romantic connection, and the person he's supposed to be having a romantic connection with is actually has no interest in a romantic connection. That person is only interested in his status as a Pfizer executive. So I think that's pretty deplorable, pretty terrible. Chris Hansen would do this to expose pedophiles. I commend that. It's a brave thing to do. This is not so brave. This is a little bit cowardly in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that I don't think it shouldn't have happened. I have conflicting views on that. I'm not sure. But I am saying that I feel bad for the guy. I'll say that. Nobody should be poking fun at this guy specifically, although we're probably going to poke a little fun at him.
Hey there. Is this seat taken? You were?
It's very Chris Hansen, right? Is this seat taken? He's got this shit-eating grin, like, oh man, we got this guy. All the blurred out faces are people that are, I guess, patrons. And look at his he looks like a young Obama. He's turning his head. He's like, what? Seat taken. Why is this guy sitting down?
For Pfizer, my question for you is...
He's getting up. The second the word Pfizer came out, he said, I know what's up.
Why does Pfizer want to hide from the public?
Now, this was weird when he said, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public? And I have to break that down kind of intensely. He's not wrong. I'll say that. He's not wrong. But the word hide from the public is a little bit, is very loaded. It doesn't comport, because there's a couple of problems with that word. The implicit problem is that he says, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public? And it implies that internal research at pharma is normally revealed to the public, which is not. So there's this implicit, like, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public? Well, pharma doesn't reveal its research methods to the public on an open access basis regardless. So the implication is, no, we reveal everything, but we're hiding this. That's not the way pharma research works. If you go into Apple's headquarters or knock on Apple's headquarters door, what would they do? They would say, sorry, you're not allowed in here. We're working on some top secret things. You're not allowed to know this. And the same thing applies in pharma. You can't just go off and run around to research labs. It doesn't work. And that's normal. That's acceptable. That's fine. I mean, why would they let you in? If they're spending a lot of money on that research. If they file a patent, you'll know that. If they make an invention, you'll know that. But it doesn't make sense that you should have open access to everything they're doing. Should it make sense that the government could? Well, that's a different story. Should it make sense that shareholders should? If you're a small enough shareholder, I don't know that buys you a ticket. If you're a very, very large shareholder, say you own more than 5 or 10% of the company, maybe. If you're a board member, maybe. If you're any old employee, even then, you don't have access to all the research inner workings. If you're a salesperson. So, that's just the nature of that. And so keep that in mind. That, Pfizer has no obligation to disclose its inner workings to anyone. Completely fine, not atypical, etc. Now, peeling back the layers of this question a little bit more, let me rewind a little. Let's go back to the question.
Yeah. Is this seat taken? You work for Pfizer. My question for you is, why does Pfizer want to hide from the public the fact that they're mutating the code?
Okay. Why does Pfizer want to hide from the public? So another dimension you can look at this question, which is important, is not just the way we answered it before, but a new dimension, which is if this activity, which we'll talk about in a second, were to come to public light, would Pfizer want to do that? And I think that that's where this question gets interesting, which is, well, if you went into Eli Lilly's laboratory, or perhaps, GSK's, or if you went into Johnson & Johnson's lab, or Merck's, most of these companies, they don't have a lot to do with COVID the way Pfizer does. Let me pick even another company that has virtually nothing to do with COVID. Let me think here, because everybody's tried to dip their hands into COVID a little. So let's just go to our biopharma sheet real quick. Roche, Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk doesn't have a single COVID project, right? Novartis has almost no COVID projects. So if you went to the Novartis, or Amgen has virtually no COVID projects. So if you went to Amgen or AstraZeneca or Novo Nordisk's lab, you would not be surprised by what you saw. You would see people doing research on, different diseases like multiple sclerosis or oncology or whatever, and those companies would have no problem conceptually, other than for trade secrets, they'd have no problem with the public knowing that, right? They would say, yeah, they're doing research. I see some lab animals. I see cell cultures. I see expensive equipment. I see genetic sequencing. I see all kinds of tests. I see plans for clinical trials. I see plans for FDA approval, things like that. The problem with this situation, at least purportedly and ostensibly, is that this is more sensitive, that if the public were to know that there was a lab within Pfizer doing this kind of activity, that is something maybe they don't necessarily want people to know, because that is something that might alarm people, rightly or wrongly. And again, we'll get to that question, which I do have an opinion on. So I think his question on sort of 50% of it is misleading, because he's basically saying, why does Pfizer want to hide its private research from the public? And the answer is, well, maybe they don't, right? The answer partially is, well, we don't normally tell people, about our private research, and that's true. The other half of the question I understand. I'm saying that the question's somewhat misleading, in a way. Recognizing the sensitivity of doing this kind of research and letting people know about it. There are some research projects that are more sensitive than others. So anyway, let's keep going. Champagne, if you don't have the patience to watch this video, I suggest you move on to Disney.com. That's a good website for you.
COVID, that virus.
Is this real life? I'm literally a liar. I was trying to impress a person on a date by lying. This is absurd.
Don't touch me. Well, this is not wide awake.
Why are you doing
Don't
this?
tell anybody.
He's just working at a company to literally help the public. You up. You really did. Please read the clause. It's very unsafe.
Can you please unlock your door?
No, don't let them leave.
Please unlock the door.
Give them life.
Please unlock the door. Please unlock it.
So obviously, if you don't feel bad for this person, I think you don't have much humanity. You got to feel a little bad. You could also laugh, and I laughed a little bit. But it's sad as well. I'd say 80-90% sad and 10-20% funny, and that's me being a little bit nasty. Really, it should be 0% funny. But let's keep going. He is not very high up at Pfizer.
That's why they're not wanting the public to know that you got it.
Okay, so like I said, I think it's really kind of disgusting to sort of record somebody without their knowledge on a date. The reason they were grabbing each other there was because I think that it is real, and I do think he lied on the date. I basically believe his what he's saying here, and we'll break it all down in a second. When I was younger and more insecure in hedge funds, I tried to tell girls that I was James Bond. I was flying around the world interrogating CEOs. If they didn't listen to me, I would force them to do what I wanted, or I would fire them. I mean, it's not too far from the truth, but I left out the number crunching all day part. I left out the nerd parts. I made it sound like, I was literally James Bond. So if you don't lie on dates, that's great. But I did, at least in the past. So anyway, I feel bad about that. I think that, this guy goes into this state thinking it's a romantic endeavor. It's not. It's a whatever, stick up. I do think it's real. I think his reaction, again, is somewhat humorous, but very, very pathetic as well. I'm kind of surprised he didn't just start crying. Like, it's such a terrible situation. Look at this hidden camera. This guy's pretending to be gay, possibly. Maybe he's really gay. We don't know. To get in. This is a third date. God knows what the first and second dates look like. This is not a bioweapon intended to take lives. Don't write stuff like that. That's insane. You lack a basic understanding of medicine. And I'm not some Pfizer shill. I actually made a big statement against Pfizer in 2015, I believe. So I believe his reaction. I know some people don't, but I believe it's real. So when he says, does Pfizer not want the public to know that you guys are doing directed evolution? This is a tricky question. There's two ways to look at this. And I think the weird reaction that a lot of people are having to this, which is the wrong reaction, and some people are calling it the right-wing reaction. I'm right-wing. I'm a Republican. I'm a 100% Republican. I've always voted for Republicans. I've given money to Republicans. I go to Republican fundraisers. I'm not a Democrat. So this right-wing reaction that's taken place is to this text on my screen. Does Pfizer not want the public to know that you guys are doing directed evolution? Again, the implicit point here is that directed evolution or serial passage or whatever you want to call this method is not allowed. And it is allowed with directed evolution, at least legally. You may really think it shouldn't be done, and we can have that debate in a minute. But at the moment, there's no legal prohibition. So when they say, does Pfizer not want the public to know, the question is, what's the impetus of that? Is it because it's illegal? Well, no, that's not true. Is it because it's sensitive and dangerous and it's kind of edgy? Or is it because they're worried that people will take it the wrong way and that there's a lot of misinformation about this, and maybe that, talking about this will be, kind of like blown up for no reason? I think it's the latter in Pfizer's mind, and it might be the former in a lot of other people's minds, but it's not illegal for sure. Let's look at some recent work on this stuff. It's been debated about its legality, but it didn't get sent to China for any reason or anything like that. In fact, there's this whole protocol for being very careful about how to do this. You can see here, this bacterial MRSA serial passage to identify resistance mutations. This is smart research, right? In this case, you are trying to figure out, where the resistance could take place. So you can make a drug that is prophylactically resistant to that resistance, or if you will. Here's another example of a herpes virus. Some people are doing this research today, all around the world. There's no prohibition on it. Banning this kind of research could make sense. I'm not saying that it's out of the question. There is some risk of the virus leaving the facility, and that's substantial. And after COVID, I think we do have to think twice about this stuff. Does the risk justify the benefit? Should it be sent to an approval committee? And sometimes these things are sent to approval committee. There's an IRB in a lot of research institutions, but I don't know. I'm not sure. But the point is that we don't have a gain-of-function ban or anything like that. Yeah, this guy is not a senior person at Pfizer either, by the way. Pfizer senior management is CEO, CFO, head of sales, chief research, things like that. head of manufacturing and business ops, you know, it is not this guy. It's very, very far away. This is the funniest part, where he thinks he's getting flashbacks to basically the videos he's watched of Project Veritas. So he's literally asking the guys. He doesn't want to talk about work, right? He's on date. And he keeps saying, so why are we back on this topic?
Here. Is this seat taken? Hi. You work for Pfizer. My question is,
Oh, no.
why does Pfizer want to hide from the public the fact that they're mutating the COVID virus? He's
So if I were him, I would just say, okay, let's sit down and have this discussion. I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of Pfizer. Gain of function research is legal. I assume this was confidential. You know, I think it's really bad form to record somebody on a date. My comments do not reflect Pfizer at all. I have no further comment. That's it, right? I mean, that's all you got to say. But of course, you know, in the heat of the moment, it's very hard to be that poised, right? And he does say he was flexing for the date, you know.
on video. You're saying we're exploring how the virus keeps mutating.
I mean, we're exploring how the virus keeps mutating. Sure. I mean, they literally, you know, that's their job. There's nothing wrong with that.
One of the things we're exploring is, why don't we mutate the virus? So, please do.
The cops thing is again very strange. Like, his freak out probably should have stopped here, and the best way to figure this out is to interact directly. And O'Keefe is a fast-talking, kind of intimidating kind of guy, and he is waving this gotcha on this guy, and all this guy's got to realize is there's no gotcha here.
Welcome to today's talk, Sunday the 29th of January. Now, I've got a surprise when I looked at this. This is a press release from Pfizer, and we're going to be looking at what this says. Now, it's from...
It's interesting. It says Pfizer has not conducted gain-of-function research. Seems a little surprising to me. I thought they did. This guy was just maybe BSing? I don't know. Has not conducted gain-of-function or directed evolution research. Well, there's the BSL-3 laboratory that I was talking about the other day in our Discord chat. BSL-3 tends to ensure that virus doesn't escape. And that's the kind of place that you do this type of research. How do you phrase gain-of-function? So, to me, this Pfizer statement's a little misleading. In vitro work doesn't mean it's not gain-of-function. I mean, just because it's not in vivo doesn't mean it's not gain-of-function work. So, you know, it's a little bit of a dodge to say, oh, that's in vitro work. Well, you know, and you can see that they're not, you know, they don't stop here, this paragraph. They stop with the paragraph, it would be like a flat denial, but they kind of say, well, we do some work. And that's why they mentioned the biosafety level 3. BSL-3 is a very, like, think about it as like Fort Knox or like a high security prison instead of medium or low. It's a really, really high security biolab. Pfizer is trustworthy. I don't think that they'd lie on their website, CXCon. I don't think you really understand the way corporate communications works. Have you ever worked at senior management of a publicly traded company? I'm starting to get mad. Don't make me get mad, man. If I get mad, you turn me back to the old Shkreli. How could a company lie in a public statement? Do you really think that's a good idea? Companies do that routinely? It's an SEC violation. You get jail for that. Believe me, I know. You guys have to take my word for some of this stuff. A lot of you guys are just freestyling like you know what you're talking about. You don't, all right? Shkreli knows. Shkreli's not going to lead you wrong. Shkreli don't like any company. Shkreli short stocks. I'll short the stock to 0.